One thing we stumbled upon while doing some of our research is that each country has a distance selling limit for the VAT. Most people simply refuse to believe something like this exists, but yes, there is a limit to how much a company can sell to a consumer of another member state per year before having to register for and pay VAT in that country. The actual limit itself is a joke unless you're selling items worth €1. It would seem that this can become an accountancy nightmare for companies wanting to sell to more than 10 customers per month in various countries. Obviously, some countries are easier to deal with than others, though other countries may actually be skipped due to it not being economically viable to serve them. We generally try not to present people with an opinion on what needs to be done to begin fixing the problem. Whilst we can get everyone to agree that there is a problem, we likely can't get people to agree on what needs to be done to fix it. The most important thing is for awareness to be raised and for people to complain. Only then can our elected leaders discuss it and come up with a solution that the majority can agree with. For argument's sake, I will offer a possible solution to the VAT distance selling issue. Currently, what seems to be going on is that every country is looking after its own interests, which is completely understandable, yet it's all me, me, me instead of we. Suppose a company from, let's say, Germany starts having a lot of customers in Cyprus. The German government would have no direct benefit from this, so why would they even bother trying to promote cross-border e-commerce at all? My solution would benefit both the buying and selling countries. A specific VAT rate should be applied to cross-border trading online. This would be a VAT rate which applies to consumers buying items through the internet. Ideally, this would be about 20%, a nice round number. This tax could then be split 50-50 between the buying and selling countries, which means both would get 10%. This would facilitate cross-border e-commerce. The VAT collection would be handled by the selling country, with the seller showing which country the item was sold to, and the tax collected would be sent to the buying country by the selling country at the government level. People all over the EU are starting to complain about prices, and this is making many people Eurosceptic. The Germans are wondering, what is wrong with these people? The EU is great. It seems that people in most countries agree that they are being overcharged, and the consumers are not really seeing any benefit from the EU. However, businesses love it. Consumers start blaming the EU, yet they fail to understand that most of the problems are caused by their own government and/or greedy businesses. Using the above example of a solution, Germans would have an incentive to sell to other countries and make more money for both their businesses and their government. It would pretty much be a patriotic thing to do, serving the EU. I believe that type of solution would create a lot of competition EU-wide. Those countries which offer the best logistics and an ease of accountancy will dominate. This will more than likely force various postal and courier services in different countries to become more efficient in order to compete. At the end of the day, the way I see it, the consumer wins. Most Americans simply cannot comprehend what we are complaining about, and you hear the same thing: free market, no government intervention, etc. What is in fact happening is that there is no free market, simply because there is no choice. You just can't buy from elsewhere. And this is more or less caused by the various trading laws countries have, which defeat the purpose of the EU at a consumer level. What has happened with the EU so far, it seems, people have been given the ability to immigrate easily, but other than that, the average citizen has not really seen any other benefits. What we want to promote is the idea of, if you don't like what is happening, complain about it, seek a solution, get it fixed. If our elected officials do not take this seriously, they might as well be telling people, if you don't like it, go to another country. Another thing you may hear about sometimes is, you don't have to buy anything. If you don't want to pay for it, don't buy it. This, I would say, is a very stupid argument. How can you tell people that if they don't want to pay double the value of a computer, don't buy a computer? Computers, whether we like it or not, are one of the most important technological advancements and are pretty much becoming a requirement for day-to-day life, as they allow us to access all sorts of information and keep in contact with people and family from very far away. More or less, what we are proposing is a lifting of the artificial borders which will allow the free market to operate in a way that will create friendly competition, leading to lower prices, better service, and should even improve delivery times from country A to country B, as countries will need to compete to become the best country to buy from. As I explained earlier, whilst we have covered computer hardware, the same situation applies to pretty much anything. By lifting the artificial borders, competition will thrive EU-wide. We all have something to gain from this. As we keep trying to remind everybody, all this will take is for everybody to take a few minutes to contact their elected officials, consumer protection agencies and MEPs in order to get them to understand how strongly we feel about this. In the big picture, nothing bad can come from this. We all have something to gain in one way or another when something comes out of this. It appears that many of the smaller countries, especially Cyprus and Malta, are discriminated against in that they aren't allowed to use certain services. Services which include Apple's iTunes and Application Store or Valve's Steam. At the time of testing, the only way we could buy from these shops was by lying about where we are from and using credit cards from other countries. This is not something people look at every day, simply because if they get refused a few times, eventually they stop trying to buy. In the meantime, major cartels are trying to complain that people pirate software, yet people in certain countries are either flat out denied service or forced to pay much higher prices than everyone else. Our goal is to raise awareness, for people to know that they're not the only ones enduring this discrimination, and get as many Europeans to complain about this at the same time, so that dialogue can begin at an EU level on how to fix these problems. We want to remind people that a lot of positive things can be gained for the average citizen because of the EU, and that the EU is not being allowed to reach its true potential where the average citizen can start seeing the benefits from it. We use the euro currency in our graphs for all countries because other than the various local currencies, it's really the only international currency that even matters to us Europeans. Back when we had the Cyprus pound in Cyprus, we were all very happy to hear that the euro would be coming, as we had unrealistic expectations that prices would begin to normalize and we wouldn't be ripped off as bad. This hasn't happened. If anything, it has started getting worse lately. If the euro currency was used to normalize prices, I feel very confident that the average citizen would really want their country to adopt the euro. One thing I'd like to add, I believe that we should stop calling ourselves consumers. It makes us sound like test subjects. Everyone consumes and we are all citizens. The consumer is not being affected by this, the citizens are. It seems that it's okay for consumers to be discriminated against, yet it becomes a problem when a citizen is discriminated against. We are all citizens and we all consume, and a lot of us are being discriminated against. Thank you for taking the time to listen to what I have to say. We need to spread the word, raise awareness and complain. I believe that together we can make a difference, and even if you have doubts that we will be heard, we don't lose much by at least trying. We all have an active interest in seeing this through, to unite all Europeans at a citizen level.